this is Donnavan Dijak, and you're listening to the ECWF podcast.
Get the F out.
All right, welcome to episode number 12 of the ECWF podcast. We will not get the F out, we put the F back in. I'm your host, Sean Bicking, and I'm not in the Honda Civic studio, nope, in the bedroom for this one, in the Electric City, Scranton, Pennsylvania. On this episode, we have ROH superstar Donnavan Dijak, and we talk everything from training in chaotic Killer Kowalski school to winning the top prospect tournament in ROH. Just wrestled Jay Lethal 2 days ago. He's a busy guy. Really one of the young up-and-coming superstars in ROH. So sit back and enjoy. Alright, back on my podcast here with ROH superstar Donnavan Dijak. And you are in Massachusetts, is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I live right on the border of Massachusetts and New Hampshire.
Originally from?
Yeah, I'm originally from a small town called Lunenburg, Massachusetts. It's right next to Fitchburg, which is right next to Worcester. So I bill myself from Worcester because that's easier than writing Lunenburg and having nobody know where the hell it is.
I was going to say,
it would be like if I billed myself from Aberdeen, Washington, like somebody does.
Yeah.
Or West Newbury, Massachusetts, and people would say, where the hell is that?
Right.
So I decided to go with Worcester instead. Plus, Lunenburg sounds kind of foreign, so I didn't want people thinking I was from like Luxembourg or something.
I was gonna say maybe because of spelling, but
yeah, it's probably difficult to spell, especially because Pittsburgh is spelled differently and all sorts of difficulties with it. So yeah, I decided to make it a little easier, go with Worcester. It's Worcester County of Massachusetts, so that's, it's close enough, I guess.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say, the only thing I know from Massachusetts is Boston, so that tells you
exactly.
the extent of my,
yeah. Whenever I'm more than, 4 hours away from Massachusetts, the ring announcer will ask me where I want to be billed from, and I'll say, does anybody here even know where Worcester is? And usually they say, no. I say, all right, I'm from Boston.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so, Donnavan is 6'7", 265, 275, that range, is that correct?
Yeah, I used to float around a lot. Now I'm about 260.
Okay, and you say 6'7", 270. When you think of a professional wrestler, what they should look like, that's the picture, you right there. So, what age did, you hit, kind of a growth spurt? Were you a big kid growing up, or?
Yeah, I was always, tall for my age. I was never the tallest kid in class. I was usually second or third or whatever. But yeah, I've always been I'm not sure how to describe it. I guess proportionally big. I was never the lanky kid or or really short and fat or anything. I was always just kind of bigger, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which kind of made it, I guess, a little slower of a process. It took a while for me to kind of grow into my body. I wasn't really. I've always been athletic, but I wasn't really coordinated until probably junior year of high school. So probably until 16 or 17. When I was in 8th grade, I was probably about 6 feet tall, and then freshman year I was about 6'3". And then sophomore year is when I finally got to about 6'5", and then I kind of leveled off from there.
Okay.
And it wasn't until junior year where I really started to be able to, actually make plays in football and basketball and not just kind of take up space.
Yeah, that I was gonna say, because with that height, especially in high school, that for basketball, that definitely is a plus.
Yeah, it was definitely advantageous for being a power forward and a center, which I played for about, my whole life, but I played through high school and college.
Okay. And where does that come from? Just love of sports, in general, or?
Yeah, a little bit. My brother also, my older brother Jason, he played he played sports in both high school, and middle school, and his whole life, and so I just kind of just took after him, and we both enjoyed watching sports and playing sports together. So he was kind of my influence growing up.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, but for football, you got a scholarship to UMass. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I was on a partial scholarship to UMass Amherst for 1 year. It ended up not really working out. They switched me to offensive line, which I didn't really care for. I mean, to begin with, football wasn't really my favorite sport. Basketball was, and so right off the get go, I didn't. I didn't love it. I liked playing football, and I liked playing defense on football. I didn't really care for offense.
Okay.
So once they switched me to offensive line and told me I had to gain a bunch of weight, it was kind of like, well, now I'm not having fun anymore.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that kind of ruins the point of playing sports, especially if you're not making money off of it. If you're just in college or whatever, it's just kind of taking up your time. So that's when I transferred to Bridgewater State. And I ended up playing football and basketball there because
Yeah.
it was a smaller school, so I was able to do that. And it ended up being a great decision, and I really enjoyed my time in college.
I was gonna say you're pretty successful there, basketball wise, right?
Yeah. My junior, we were able to. I wouldn't say turn the program around. It always had success, but we were able to have the best year in the history of the program. My junior year, we made it to the Division III Sweet 16. And then my senior year, we got our second of back-to-back district or division. I don't know, whatever
Yeah.
the group is called, our championship. We were able to win again.
Yeah.
So yeah, the basketball seasons were definitely a highlight of my time in college.
Okay, and was there any aspirations like at that age of saying, hey, maybe I could do this like at the next level?
Doing basketball or football.
Yeah.
Um, if I were going to play professionally, it would have been in football.
Okay.
Because despite the fact that I enjoyed basketball more, football was what I was better at.
Okay.
And ironically, probably as an offensive lineman, it's just kind of the way that it worked out. Is I happened to be built the best and kind of the proper, I guess, size and technique to be a high caliber offensive lineman, and it's just not really what I was interested in doing. My body always held weight well, even when I was 280, 285. I wasn't like a fat guy, basically.
Yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
body just proportionally holds weight well. But I never felt good. It didn't feel. Every night I'd be sleeping more. It'd take more to get out of bed. It's just not, and I didn't love being an offensive lineman. I didn't enjoy it. I never blamed UMass for moving me there. I agree with them. That was probably the best position for me, and it probably would have been the smartest move for me. And I might have been able to play in the NFL. Who knows? But
Yeah.
it's not what I would have enjoyed.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot more fun being a professional wrestler.
Yeah. I gotta say
Equally,
everything happens for
equally
a
as
reason.
painful. Yeah, exactly.
But okay, so let's get into wrestling a little bit.
Sure.
And I read somewhere that like obviously you were a fan growing up and stuff like that, but you stopped watching it for a while.
Yeah, for the football and basketball seasons, basically. DVR wasn't a huge thing. I think TiVo was invented in like 2006 or 2007, something like that. But I didn't have access to that in like a college dorm room or anything.
Yeah.
So so yeah, when it's probably around like 2003 or 2004. That's when high school sports really picked up for me. Monday nights I'd be in the gym shooting hoops or in the weight room or whatever it happens to be, or coming home from practice trying to get homework done. So it just never really worked out for continuing to watch wrestling. So from about 2003, 2004 to 2000, 10 or 11, I guess. That's kind of when my focus was 100% on sports, mainly football and basketball, and training for those seasons. Because every single one of those seasons, except for the one I was at UMass, I was playing both sports. So I never really had like an off season, even.
Right.
I would play one sport, it would go directly into the other sport, and then I would spend the whole quote unquote off season, training for both of those sports.
Yeah.
to maintain the kind of balance that I needed to successfully play both. So yeah, there was never really any time to watch pro wrestling, but I did get back into it, once I graduated from college.
Okay. Now, where did the decision come to I want to be a pro wrestler?
It kind of evolved over a short period of time. I was watching obviously when I graduated, and then there was sort of always that feeling, even as a kid when I was watching, that it was something that I'd be good at. But it always struck me as something that was kind of unrealistic. I wasn't sure, how you would train for it or what the time commitment was. In my head, I figured that, you'd have to travel all over the world to train, and you would have to dedicate your life to it. It wasn't really something that I had the time or the knowledge of to successfully do. I also thought that, you had to be really young, to even start doing it, sort of like a gymnast or whatever. So it wasn't until I randomly found this article online about Triple H training at the Killer Kowalski school that I started, on a night of boredom, I guess. I started to link, all the pieces together and realize that it was kind of a realistic possibility, and not only a realistic possibility, but it was, that school and that institution had continued on in my area. I mean, not my local area. It's still like a 40-minute drive or whatever, but it was, completely feasible, and the training schedule, at least initially, was. Turns out after doing it for a few years that my original thought was correct, and that
Right.
it does take, a dedicating of your life.
Yep. I was gonna say that.
To
Yeah.
to the business, because I do obviously, travel the world, and my time commitment is quite heavy, but it is as an adult, I have found a way to balance both that and what remains of my normal life, so to speak. So I'm doing my best at this point, but yeah, I certainly wouldn't trade it for anything.
Okay, and you mentioned Killer Kowalski School. Is that that what led you to Chaotic?
Correct. Yes. So I don't know if it's still like this, to be honest. But if you Google Killer Kowalski's School of Pro Wrestling or whatever it happens to be, there's still like an older page, I think. And if you click on that page, it's got a little bio or whatever, and it links you to the old Chaotic Training Center page.
Okay.
Because I guess in 2000 or 2001, that's when Mike Hollow broke off from Walter's school in Malden. I think the school got condemned eventually or whatever, but there was like a year or so there where there were two separate schools, both Killer Kowalski School and Mike's school in the current North Andover building. And then after about a year, I think in 2000 or 2001, that's when the school in Malden got shut down, and Walter moved in with Mike at the Chaotic Training Center. So that they kind of brought the name along too. So it ended up being the Chaotic Training Center / Killer Kowalski School of Professional Wrestling. And then once that sort of evolved over time, the CTC evolved over time, and finally in 2010 or 11, that's when Brian Fury was one of the head trainers at the CTC, and they had to sell the school, so he decided to buy it. He changed the name to the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, and I guess you can throw on the other ones at the end, because that's how the websites still link to one another. If you click on the Kowalski's one, it links you to the CTC, which will link you to the New England Pro Wrestling Academy website.
Okay.
So it's kind of an evolution of all of those schools, and it's obviously still running to this day. Brian Fury's still the head trainer there. I still attend and help out and train myself. So
nice. Okay. Getting into the Killer Kowalski school, did you have like a regular job to pay for that then, or?
Well, sort of. I had a regular job, but that wasn't to pay for that. I had to get a second job to pay for the training at the. Excuse me, I'm trying to eat a salad.
You're fine. You're fine.
I woke up a little late this morning because it's my first day off in over a week, and I haven't slept for most of those days.
Okay.
So I slept and I'm eating a salad a little late. But yeah, hang on. What was the question about? Sorry.
About paying for training school, like if you had a regular job
right, yeah.
or.
So I did have a job at the time. I was a investigator for the public defender's office at the time. But I needed a little extra money to pay for the full tuition, which is actually very reasonably priced at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy. So it didn't take me too long, but I did have to pick up a second job selling dog food, I think.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I was balancing at the time between the three of them. My brother, again, Jason, he was very helpful in the process, and he ended up kind of fronting the money for me.
Oh, nice.
So I was able to start training right away when I wanted to, and then I was able to kind of work the second job to pay him back for the full down payment.
Right. Okay, and you mentioned a little bit, because you have a criminal justice background, right?
Correct.
And that's from college?
Yeah, it's from Bridgewater State where I transferred to.
Okay.
I have an undergraduate and graduate degree in criminal justice.
Okay, and is that kind of like a backup plan? I mean, obviously, like ROH is going great for you and everything, but like just in case.
Sort of. I mean, yeah, I still have my.
I mean, way down the road. I hope I'm not.
Right. Yeah. Back in, I don't remember, maybe 2013, I moved on from the public defender's office to the job that I currently have, which is working in Methuen, Massachusetts, in a residential home for teenage boys. That's been great for me because they're able to kind of balance my schedule, and I kind of tell them what time I need off and when I need it off, and we're able to kind of format my whole schedule around that. So it's hectic because it kind of fills in all the gaps. So I really don't have any free time whatsoever. But I do still work there during the week. Hopefully, I feel like I'm probably getting to the point, especially when my current deal with Ring of Honor is up, that will probably that'll be a good time for me to move into the full-time professional wrestler category, because that's when I can kind of restructure everything and see where we can go from there from a financial aspect.
Right. Okay. You want to talk about training with Brian Fury a little bit, like that experience and.
Sure. Brian Fury's a guy, like I said, that I still train with. I've wrestled him a million times.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Mm-hmm. And originally when I started the school, it was him and Warbeard Hansen they were the two head trainers at the school. At this point, Hansen doesn't really train there much anymore, but Fury's still there every single night that it's open, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. He's a guy that I would probably consider. I mean, I've trained all over the world, like I said. I've sought out some of the best trainers in the world, be it word of mouth or pedigree or whatever it happens to be. And Brian Fury is definitely among the best trainers in the world. And it's hard to not speak in hyperbole when you're talking about professional wrestling, because that's what people do. They just kind of try to make everything sound like it's the greatest thing in the world, but legitimately, from my perspective, Brian Fury is one of the top trainers in the entire world. Certainly in the United States. I would say even in the United States, it's a short list of guys, like Lance Storm, the Dudley School,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like the Monster Factory, the Wild Samoan Training Center, Harley Race, and you can include Brian Fury's New England Pro Wrestling Academy right amongst that list of schools. The Ring of Honor School, obviously, in Pennsylvania as well. I'm sure I'm leaving some off that list, but it's not the longest list in the world, and
Right.
The training that I've received from him, the thing that will stand out between him and those other lists is that most people have probably heard of those other people, whereas most people probably haven't heard of Brian Fury. Maybe they've heard of Killer Kowalski's or whatever, but I would say that Brian Fury is easily at the top of the list of the most underrated trainers, probably in the history of wrestling, but certainly of right now, because it's kind of like pro wrestling's best kept secret. The school keeps running, people keep showing up, and people keep we keep turning out great professional wrestlers that. In the time that he's been training, between the time he was the head trainer at the or one of the head trainers at the CTC, and the time that he's owned the school, I mean the list of people that he's turned out in just a decade or whatever. A decade in pro wrestling is kind of a short amount of time, and he's already at least helped develop a whole list of people who are now making a living off of professional wrestling, who are household names.
Yeah.
People who probably will in the future. So it's definitely an accomplishment, and the proof is in the pudding, as they say. And I would say that personally, from a personal standpoint, in terms of in-ring technical stuff, I owe pretty much everything to Brian Fury.
Nice. Okay, now talk about, because a lot of wrestling schools you hear about, and the owner, or maybe they'll just collect your money, kind of sit off to the side, and somebody else will do the work. But what's that experience like, to where you have somebody who's actually hands on with you?
It's probably the most helpful thing about his school. He's definitely one of the few guys who will get in the ring with you. I know Lance Storm is one of those guys. He still to this day loves to get in the ring and show rather than kind of explain, which is incredibly helpful in the world of professional wrestling. But yeah, just the ability for Fury to be able to kind of train and learn alongside with us, because it should be an ever evolving process. I hate this notion of guys who think that they have it all figured out in professional wrestling. I really don't care if you're the greatest anything in the world. You should always be trying to improve and get better. I don't think at any point LeBron James or Steph Curry, step onto the basketball court and go, okay, guys, I'm the best in the world here, so I don't really need to show up to practice anymore. I'm going to skip shoot around today. I'm not going to take any jump shots because I really have this whole basketball thing figured out. Nobody says that, but that happens all the time in pro wrestling. Guys are like, oh, I've been wrestling 40 years, so I got it figured out, kid. I made all this money, whatever. Well, that's great, but there's always room for you to improve. There's always room for everyone to improve, and I never liked that mentality about professional wrestling where people think that they have it all figured out or whatever. Nobody will ever have it all figured out. There's always some way that you can improve, and in my opinion, if you're not improving, then you're getting worse. If you're getting worse and you're training other people, then who's that helping really at the end of the day? Because maybe you're good, you were good, or whatever it happens to be, but I don't think you're doing your due diligence to your students if you're not always constantly evolving or trying to get better yourself.
Definitely. No, that's a great mindset to have, just in life in general, really, but especially wrestling.
Yeah.
But okay, so starting out, a chaotic heavyweight champion.
I dropped the Chaotic Wrestling Heavyweight Championship to Chase Del Monte about a little over a year ago now. It was Cold Fury 14, I think. 13, maybe? I don't know. 14, I think. Yeah, because we just had 15. Ironically, my one and only championship ever in professional wrestling. I've never even held a championship at like a small local promotion that just kind of like throws a belt on. Like everyone I know has been some sort of some random champ. They're like a champion right now, and they don't even want to be a champion.
Right.
It's some random company. No company has ever put a championship on me, and I couldn't. I mean, I can tell you why. It's because they all feel like I can't, commit to their dates or whatever because I'm so not sporadic. Like there's some companies where I'll work for, but it's just hard with my schedule, to say, oh yeah, I'll make this, that, and this date because right from early in my career, I had the opportunities with Ring of Honor and stuff, and I've always been, traveling to seminars and whatever. So right, even from an early stage, there was never like even a small local company besides Chaotic where I could say, yeah, I can make your, all of your dates for the next 6 months or whatever, because that's kind of the most important thing on the indies in terms of being a champion is being able to be there.
Right. Now, like, a lot of people I don't think know that like a contract with ROH is not like exclusive to ROH like a WWE or something like that. Like you
for some guys it is. The Young Bucks or ACH or Jay Lethal. Those are the kind of guys, the Briscoes. Those are the kind of guys who have a contract that's exclusive to Ring of Honor, and obviously it's proportionate to their financial compensation. But yeah, the different contracts are constructed differently. My current contract has it, so I can work for other companies other than TV companies and pay-per-view companies.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Beyond Wrestling, that's one of them you're currently with, right?
Correct. Yeah, I've been with Beyond Wrestling for over a year now. It's definitely a promotion that's given me a lot of the biggest opportunities in my career. Even from an early standpoint, I was able to wrestle Eddie Edwards, Biff Busick, Brian Fury, Juice Robinson. I mean, I could go down the list, but it's kind of an ever evolving list that keeps continuing to impress. From Tommaso Ciampa to Sami Callihan to Chris Dickinson. I've been able to wrestle some of the top guys in the industry. JT Dunn, Chris Hero. This next show we have coming up, I'm going to be wrestling Keith Lee because we're presenting kind of a battle of the big men sort of presentation. So that should certainly be a unique matchup between two bigger guys who are more athletic than we probably should be, and that's gonna end up having us have shorter careers than we probably should. But I'm saying that kind of jokingly. I don't know how Keith's body's holding up, but I'm actually feeling pretty good. I just wrestled Jay Lethal on Wednesday, which was kind of a rare midweek wrestling match, and to be honest, I kind of expected my body to be like falling apart at this point, because usually if you've got to wrestle too much in too short amount of time, the aches and pains tend to grow. But I actually feel pretty good going into this upcoming weekend, so excited for that.
Definitely. Let's talk a little bit about ROH. I mean, it's a great time to be in that, like, involved with that company with the whole Bullet Club thing going on now. And I mean, like, as like a member of the roster, like, do you sit back and you're just like, wow, sometimes?
There's definitely moments, especially when something sort of whatever it happens to be, like transcends the Ring of Honor landscape. Like I've kind of once you're immersed in it for a while, the luster of everything sort of turns from I can't think of the word that I'm looking for right now, but I guess the luster of it all sort of fades. But once something transcends Ring of Honor, whether it be like a Bullet Club type situation where people who aren't even Ring of Honor fans are kind of hearing about it and talking about it, that's when you realize, we kind of have a bigger impact than than we necessarily realize on a day-to-day basis.
Right. So the way I describe it to people is like it's this generation's ECW because it's not the biggest company in the world, but it is like so different than everything else out there.
Yeah, I've heard that comparison before. Obviously, on a couple of different levels, it's both a fair and unfair comparison. ECW, I think they had a national cable deal, and they were obviously running pay-per-views for longer than we were. And I want to say that they ran bigger venues than us. Maybe they didn't. I mean, I certainly don't have my history,
Right.
all my ducks in a row in terms of that. But yeah, I would say in terms of people's knowledge of the product, I remember when I was a kid, I knew of ECW growing up, but it was kind of tough to find, and I didn't really watch the product too much or religiously. I feel like Ring of Honor is kind of the same thing. If you talk to any wrestling fan, I think they know of Ring of Honor. Most of them probably haven't seen too much. They probably know some of the guys who are from Ring of Honor. I think that's very much the same thing that happened with ECW. Everybody knew, I know Taz, and I know he's from he's from ECW or whatever it happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, everybody likes the concept of it, but nobody's able to really find it or watch it.
Right, yeah.
Which is funny in this day and age because it really isn't hard at all to watch Ring of Honor. If
That's
you kind
true.
of just put a modicum of effort into it, all you got to do is really just go to our website and you can watch every show besides the pay-per-views for free right on the website there. So anyone who says they want to watch it but isn't is pretty much lying.
Right.
But,
I don't know. Can't find the channel, because I know you guys did switch networks for I think it was Destination America maybe, and now
it's certainly easier to watch, and trust me, I totally understand the difference between watching something on television as opposed to watching it on the internet. It was great when we had the Destination America deal. A lot of people got that network. Obviously, it was in 50, 60 million homes, whatever it happened to be. So that was an awesome time for us. I was able to be featured on both the first and last episodes that we aired on Destination America. So I was proud to be a part of that whole run. Now we still have our Sinclair deal, so we still air on tons of channels, local Sinclair affiliates over the weekends, and then during the week we have our deal with Comet Television, which is also readily accessible, whether it be through your HD antenna or if you want to watch it online. We have a link that we post up every week where you can watch the free live stream online of Comet TV. And if you can't catch that, then you can watch it every Thursday online at ROHWrestling.com. So it's certainly not difficult to find. In my area, it plays on Nesson, which is a huge channel in this area. It's where the Red Sox play.
Yeah.
And it airs every Sunday at 8 p.m., give or take a Red Sox game bumping it. But yeah, the Ring of Honor product is more visible now than, well, maybe not more visible since the Destination America deal is no longer, but it's definitely more easy to access the product for free than ever in the history of probably any professional wrestling organization before. It's all you really got to do is type in a website and there it is. So pretty much anybody who has access to the internet, which is almost everybody, I assume, at this point in today's day and age, has access to the product for free.
Yeah, and that's almost the thing too. Like you said with the internet, ROH is kind of based off of that, and like you said, not everybody can watch it on TV. So a lot of it is I don't want to say internet darling, that's the wrong word to say, but that's where it's big, you know what I mean?
Right. No, of course. Yeah, I understand. The internet has definitely been a big catalyst for Ring of Honor and companies like Ring of Honor. It's where people are able to chat about it. It's where the hardcore fans go to voice their opinions, and now that the company continues to be available on the internet, I think it just makes it that much easier for everyone to stay in touch with the product.
Okay. And all right, you breaking into ROH, you won the top prospect tournament, and if nobody knows about that, you win that, and it's a guaranteed TV title shot and a contract for ROH. Now, but you didn't take that route. You didn't because it was supposed to be Jay Lethal for the TV title, but instead
Correct.
you went a different way.
Yeah, I ended up joining the House of Truth rather than wrestling Jay Lethal. Ironically, I did just wrestle Jay Lethal. That's kind of been the story of my time in Ring of Honor, has been the House of Truth and Jay Lethal and Truth Martini, because even up to this past Wednesday at our TV tapings in Toronto, I wrestled Jay Lethal. It's a great match. It's a match that I'm proud of. A match that continues the story between myself and Lethal and the House of Truth. So I look forward to everybody seeing that on the upcoming weeks of Ring of Honor TV.
And were you the first person to win the Top Prospect tournament and not fight for the TV title?
I don't know. I guess I must have been, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Everybody else has, as far as I know.
It's almost like their version of the Money in the Bank, if you will.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you whether or not Mike Bennett did. I know Matt Taven did because he won it.
Mm-hmm. And that was similar too, because
I know Hansen did. So yeah, I'm not sure if if I know Leo Rush got his.
Yeah, this year he won it.
Yeah, he got his opportunity against Jay Lethal for the World Championship. So yeah, I might be the only one to never take the title shot, I guess.
Okay. Talk about Truth Martini a little bit. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard him on Colt Cabana's podcast, but he told like crazy stories there.
I have heard his Colt Cabana podcasts. Ironically, the newest one that he did, I don't remember exactly what it was called. It was like the greatest story ever told or something like that.
The customs.
That whole story about the border. I was actually with him for
Oh,
that
really?
whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah, we were in the same van going to the arena that we were in this Wednesday, actually, the Ted Reeve Arena in Toronto. This was obviously a while ago, probably close to a year ago now. But yeah, he got kind of held up at the border there, and there was all sorts of issues. So he ended up not being able to get through, and like he told in the podcast, he had to drive all through the night to go to the Detroit border, and that's where all of those antics ensued, I suppose.
Yeah. So
yeah, I did.
You were with him though.
If you actually watch the shows back, Jay Lethal wrestled Naito on that show, the first show, and obviously Truth was supposed to be with him, but he wasn't. So I was with him for that whole match. So I was managing Jay Lethal that night, and then the next night, Truth did make it to the show in time, and you can see even I think I want to say I'm involved in one of the first matches on that show, and Truth had just showed up to the building.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So you can kind of see it on the TV show that he's kind of exhausted, but he's out there with us.
So you were with him through the whole ordeal though?
Not with through the whole.
Oh.
Because I got through the border. I with everybody else were able to get through. He was one of the only ones who was not allowed to pass through. So as he says on the podcast, he had to drive all through the night to get to the Detroit border, and then try to get through the Detroit border, and that's where he cut that long promo on that girl and was able to finally make his way through.
Yeah, that's such a classic story. I mean,
yeah.
Okay. And the House of Truth. I mean, just being part of that, because that, I mean, over the years, it had so many people in different incarnations and stuff in it. Like, what has that meant to you?
It was a big and important chapter of my time in Ring of Honor. I think it was definitely beneficial in some aspects, and now that I've broken away from them, I think it continues to play an important role in the development of my character. So I mean, we'll kind of see where where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. But I certainly don't think we've seen the last of my interaction with the stable.
Okay, and now, because you just mentioned, I think it was February of this year is when you kind of broke out of that, and Prince Nana.
Correct. Yeah, that's sort of when that piece of the storyline has kind of come to fruition. Yeah, currently I'm managed by Prince Nana. Everything's going incredibly well. My first television match took place this last Wednesday. I've had a couple of matches under him that are available on video on demand. So we're in the infancy stages of that partnership, but so far it's been going very well. It's again something that I'm very lucky and proud to be a part of, and we'll see where it continues to develop from here.
And for people who don't know, he's again, along with Truth Martini, one of the most successful managers in ROH.
Yeah, for a long time he was the head of the embassy. A lot of successful people came from that group and that stable when it was a stable, and now we're currently in the bit of more of a solo act, but we'll see how it develops from here.
Okay. So this is kind of just a general question. I mean, I know obviously guys have friends in the locker room and stuff like that, but do you guys sit back and kind of see what's going on over in WWE or NXT and kind of see them signing all these guys? What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody else. I certainly have no real concept of how they think or what they watch or what they do. I personally, keep my eye on everything in professional wrestling. I watch every show that pretty much every company has that's available. As often as I can, anyway. I have a very busy schedule, but I do my best to keep on top of anything that's going on in the pro wrestling world, because I think that's important to be in touch with the realities of today's products and what fans like and what fans dislike, because at the end of the day, most of our fans are fans of a multitude of different companies and promotions, and you're never quite sure what's going to happen in the future. So you want to make sure that you're keeping in touch with what they like and what they dislike, and making sure that you appeal to a multitude of fan bases and not just one specific group.
Right. Okay. So I mean, future-wise for Donnavan Dijak, what do you like? What do you see? Maybe, I don't know, 5 years or something from now.
It's hard to say. My goal is to be constantly evolving and improving. So it's hard to say what that entails. Obviously, I have short-term aspirations of becoming more of a household national name, and continuing to travel different countries and continents and make my name overseas. But it's hard to say where I'll be in 5 years. I know what my aspirations are to to be the best that I can be, and to make the biggest I guess imprint on the world of professional wrestling as I can. So that comes in different avenues and different styles. So it depends on what mine is. I can't say how that will transpire over the next 5 years, but I'm certainly excited to find out.
Okay. And you mentioned hopefully ROH full-time contract. That's in the immediate
that
future.
certainly could be. a possibility. I mean, obviously, a lot of it depends on where I am from a life and financial aspect, and from a health standpoint. There's a lot of different factors that go into deciding to sign somewhere. Obviously, Ring of Honor needs to make that offer and have to show some sort of interest, which
right.
you can't bank on anything in the world of professional wrestling. It's ever changing and ever evolving. So it's hard to say what will happen in the future, but it's certainly not something that I would be opposed to.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, obviously they show some faith in you. I mean, you just wrestled Jay Lethal 2 days ago, and I mean, you've been in programs from what I've seen, like throughout your history there, like
Right.
decent, like you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
you're not just on the back burner.
Yeah, it's I've been very fortunate in my time of Ring of Honor. I've been able to wrestle a lot of the top guys in the world, between the Young Bucks, Roderick Strong, Jay Lethal recently, Michael Elgin a little while ago, the Briscoes, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish. I've been incredibly fortunate. So I'm just looking forward to that relationship continuing to improve over time.
And if you can't say it, that's fine. But has there been any other looks from anywhere else yet?
I mean, I've been involved in other companies. I've done, not dark, but what's it called? Extra work for WWE. I had a tryout with them in 2013. I don't think any of that stuff is secret stuff.
Right.
I've never had any real interaction with TNA. Certainly not recently. None of this stuff has been really recent, during my tenure with Ring of Honor, because obviously I'm under a contract right now. But yeah, but before that, obviously I was in talks with a bunch of different companies, but Ring of Honor is the one that panned out for me. So that's kind of where my focus is now, certainly in the short term, but we'll see how it develops over the course of the next year or so.
Okay. And you mentioned overseas a little bit. Like, have you got a chance to wrestle any of the New Japan guys yet, or anything like that?
New Japan guys, I mean, other than Elgin and the Young Bucks and Red Dragon and stuff, none of the Japanese-born guys.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, Watanabe would be the only one that I've wrestled. That's a YouTube exclusive match that anyone can see for free whenever they want, really. But no, I haven't had the chance to wrestle any of those guys. I'd love to. There's definitely a list of guys from New Japan Pro Wrestling that I'd love the opportunity to wrestle, whether it be in a Ring of Honor, Global Wars, War of the Worlds setting, or now I'm starting to create more of a relationship with Revolution Pro Wrestling in England. So I know they use a lot of New Japan guys for their shows, including the Summer Sizzler that's coming up, or if it happens to be an overseas opportunity in Japan or wherever else it would happen to be. I'd love the opportunity to wrestle a lot of those guys.
Now, do you look at, you just mentioned Revolution Pro, do you look at like different styles of wrestling like as a challenge, or something like you like adapt, you know what I mean?
I think it depends more on who you're wrestling rather than where you're wrestling.
Okay.
If you try, there's certainly different aspects that come into play. I guess the best way to put it would be, you never really focus on where you are, but there's always the understanding that different places where you wrestle are going to be different. Like I know that the differences between a northern crowd, a southern crowd, a Midwest crowd, a West Coast crowd, a British crowd, a German crowd. I know a lot of the differences. That being said, you don't bank on those differences, and you try not to change your reaction to those differences based on your prediction of them. I know this is getting a little convoluted in how I'm describing it.
I know what you're saying.
But,
I'm following.
Basically, I know when I go to England that the crowd is going to react in a, maybe I don't know, but I have a feeling of the way that the crowd is going to react specifically to certain things that I do or don't do. That being said, I'm not going to plan for that. That's kind of a thing that develops over the course of pro wrestling and over the course of wrestling in different areas and countries and parts of the world and things like that you learn kind of organically. Like my reaction to the way that a crowd reacts to me should be the way that my character would react to that crowd reaction, no matter where it were. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I approach things like that. You go into it with a knowledge of the different crowds, but you don't prepare for it, so to speak, because you can never be quite sure, how any one crowd is going to differ on a night-to-night basis. So you're prepared for everything, but you don't
bank on it.
Yeah, you don't bank on it per se. You're always ready for anything, but you have a general idea of what's going to happen in specific areas.
Yeah. I know the general rule is kind of like, as long as you're getting some kind of reaction, whether it be good or bad, at least you're getting a reaction.
Yeah, that's usually the case. Yes. And again, it varies from place to place, but yeah, different guys wrestle different styles. Some guys will, depending on if they have a very character-heavy sort of style, or if they're move-centric, or if they're, if they're reaction-based, or if they're more of a technical grappling sort of stuff. It all depends. Because for example, a guy like Timothy Thatcher or Kyle O'Reilly, I've seen a number of their matches before. The crowd isn't, screaming and flipping out and running all over the place. But at the end of the night, when you're listening to the fan reaction, or they're talking about it online, or whatever it happens to be, you find out that the crowd loved their match more than anybody else's. So you say to yourself, oh, that's interesting, because they weren't super loud or chanting, "This is awesome, please come back," or anything. But that's just that different style. That sometimes it's better for the fans to be sitting on the edge of their seat watching, with their heart racing, rather than jumping up and around and starting a chant and whatever happens to be. To me, there's always been a difference between being emotionally invested in something and just having like a short-term interest in something. Like I've seen a million, maybe not a million, but I've seen a bunch of matches where all sorts of exciting stuff is happening, and that's great. It's cool, and you make loud noises. You go, "Oh my God, that was awesome," whatever. You high five someone, whatever happens to be. To me, that's fun, and that's cool, and that has its place. But it may or may not be actual emotional investment. Right. If that makes sense.
Yeah, like a story behind it. I know what you mean.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, my favorite matches are always the ones that I remember for a long time afterwards. For whatever reason, whether it be some sort of intricate story or some sort of memorable transitions, or whatever happened to have piqued or captured my interest at that particular moment. So I think that's why people in today's day and age, and even some bookers in today's day and age, they get a little too caught up in I hear all the time online, "Oh, this guy's over, he's so over," which to me is just a blatant misuse of the word. The word was conceived not to describe the decibel level of the cheers that you're getting, but I think the true actual definition is how much money you're drawing, because at the end of the day, that's the baseline, and it's a metric that's hard to measure, It's not something that's measured by how loud you're cheering for someone. Because you can cheer all you want for someone, but if you don't buy their stuff and you don't pay to go see them,
It
then
doesn't
it's
mean
not
anything.
relevant. You know,
Yeah.
cheers, streamers, they're all irrelevant unless they directly support what your financial contribution is based on that person.
Right.
So it's kind of a metric that is kind of that correlation has wrongly, in my opinion, been kind of formed over the past number of years, where I think it's a lot more with fans, because the bookers oftentimes they see the bottom line and they know how the business works and they book accordingly. I think the fans they get a little too caught up in, oh, this guy's really over, you need to book him, you need to push him, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, that's not the most important thing. You know, you can cheer your ass off for. Let me give an example that everyone will understand. You can cheer your ass off for whoever. Recently released Damien Sandow. People. This used to be an argument for him all the time. People would love and cheer and blah blah blah. You know, we love Sandow. Push Sandow, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're not like buying his T-shirts or tuning in and buying the pay-per-view when Damien Sandow is featured on the pre-show, let's say, and if you're not watching the pre-show, then Vince McMahon has no reason to invest financially in Damien Sandow. And again, I have no idea. This is an example I'm giving. I couldn't know from anything whether this actually happened or not. But people cheering for him loudly when he's out there. Like, okay, that's like one piece of it, but that's not the most important piece by far, you know? People would say, oh, he's over, he's the most over guy. Well, maybe, but are you buying his stuff? Are you tuning in, to the television channel whenever he's on? Are you buying the pay-per-views? Are you watching his YouTube clips? Are you buying his action figure? Because all of that.
All right, and we were talking about fans and different reactions, and it doesn't necessarily depend on where you are or styles, stuff like that. So, I mean, if you want to just kind of finish that thought, if you can, if you remembered.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, the most important thing is how much money a guy can draw, and it's a metric that's difficult to determine in some aspects, but easy to determine in others. Like merch sale and stuff like that. But it's hard to determine, why a person is buying a ticket to a show, because there's so many different elements to a show that a person could enjoy. It's a metric that people try to determine via crowd reaction, but that's not the most trustworthy source of information. So it's bottom line is that if you can create an emotional connection with people, to me that's way more important than giving them something to cheer about. In my personal opinion,
right.
everybody's going to get a different reaction. At the end of the day, like I said, the amount of revenue that you bring in is going to determine your importance. I don't think anyone can argue the amount of revenue that the Young Bucks bring to both Ring of Honor and themselves. So I think their spot is secure on the scene. I think they're doing a great job. And I got into this not an argument, but I made a point online the other day. Someone was saying something about how the Young Bucks don't have psychology. I've wrestled the Young Bucks on a number of occasions, and they have some of the best tag team psychology of anyone that I've ever been in the ring with, which I think goes unnoticed because they have such fun and interesting high spots and character and charisma and all that stuff that I think their thought and knowledge of the business goes a little underappreciated. But at the end of the day, if they were just spot guys who just did a bunch of nonsense, they would not have the emotional connection that they have with their fans. And that they have an emotional connection because people are legitimately buying tickets just to see them, and it happens all the time. So, so that's how you know that argument is incorrect.
Right. Okay. Well, winding down here, do you want to talk about the charities real quick?
Sure. Yeah. Myself, Tommaso Ciampa, and Mike Bennett. We run a monthly. I don't know if we're going to do it next month because it's kind of it's gone really slow lately. But we've done over at least the past 6 or 7 months. We've done a charity GoFundMe. This month it's for Bright Pink. So the link is gofundme.com/brightpink BRIGHTPINK. It's in honor of Mother's Day, which was just recently.
Mm-hmm.
All the money's going towards breast cancer research. We're very excited about supporting this. Other than that, we have last month's charity, which we're working on wrapping up right now. That was to support Chris Travis, who is a wrestler in England who recently died from stomach cancer. So in his memory, we created our April campaign, which with the help of Cody Rhodes actually is going to end up doing incredibly well. He was selling T-shirts in the memory of his father, Dusty Rhodes,
Mm-hmm.
that did very well, and all that money is going to get donated to our charity. So,
Oh wow!
So we're very excited about that. It's going to be well over $3,000, something like that. So I'm really excited about making that donation. But as of right now, we're working on the Bright Pink Foundation. I think our goal is $1,000 right now. I think we're sitting around somewhere like 150. So hopefully we can get a big push for that with some mainstream support. But yeah, if anyone could retweet a link or send it out or make a small donation or a large donation, any amount is greatly appreciated. And if anyone wants or needs anything to make a donation, I'm always more than happy to help out anyone who did. I know you recently made a donation, which is
Yes.
which is awesome, and I thank you for that. And anybody else who wants to pitch in or support, just hit me up. I'm not difficult to get in touch with on any platform. So get in touch with me. We can work something out. But the most important thing is to share the link and to make donations, because it's a great charity. It's very helpful, and we're always working hard towards ending breast cancer.
Definitely. Okay. Do you want to throw out your social media plugs and whatnot?
Sure. Mostly everything I have is Donnavan Dijak. It's DONOVAN DIJAK. Twitter is at Donnavan Dijak. Facebook.com/Donnavan Dijak. Instagram is Donnavan Dijak 44. It's the number 44. What else do I have? ProWrestlingTees.com/Donnavan Dijak. That's got to be all lowercase if you want to get any of my T-shirts. Hopefully, I'll be getting a new one up there soon. Yeah, that's pretty much everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you again for taking time out, your busy day, busy schedule, and sorry about the phone issues going throughout, but
No worries. No worries.
Thank you again for being on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, that was my conversation with ROH superstar Donnavan Dijak. I want to thank him once again for being on, taking time out of his busy schedule to have a conversation with me. I really appreciate it. Make sure you guys go check out ROH TV. There's a bunch of different ways to watch it, like he was saying, and you could definitely find somewhere on the internet to watch it. It's definitely a hot product right now. And also, go support his charities. Donate whatever you can. Every little bit helps. I mean, look him up on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, and he'll post. He has the links posted there, and I'll post the link also in the Facebook group page. And make sure you support Donnavan Dijak, because it's going to be a name coming up very soon that it's going to be one of the bigger names in wrestling. So, on my end, make sure you guys, check out the Facebook group page, Electric City Wrestling Fans. Add all your friends and all that good stuff, I always say. And on iTunes, make sure you subscribe, like, rate, review, support me so I could keep doing this and pumping these podcasts out. I'm already up to 12, and it's really moving along here. So I want to thank you guys for supporting. Thank you guys for the ones that are listening and have listened. It means a lot. So I'm going to stop rambling and close this up. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.